That's one of my all-time favorite songs from my friend, Brother Chising. He was a Sangha leader in Dallas, and I think that really captures it. And when we get that message of that song, oh my gosh, how powerful we can be and how much we can contribute to changing and shifting the consciousness of a world. One heart, one life. So who will take care of the children? This question came to Myrtle Fillmore in the dream. You are to take care of the children. This is your work, was the answer she heard. And Myrtle carried out this calling that she heard and felt in such a devoted way when she said, our mission is not to entertain children, but to call them out. To always be entertained is to be dwarfed and dependent. To be called out is to follow the harmonious law of the soul's unfoldment. Who meddles with a rosebud? What fingers are deft enough to pry open the marvel of folded beauty? We are wise enough to leave it alone to follow the glad law of its own unfolding. But our children, have we dealt as wisely with these buds of marvelous possibilities? Have we always remembered that they too must quicken and unfold through the innate law of their own genius? Those are the words of Myrtle Fillmore. Those are the words that each of the youth directors of Unity live by. Talk to Kathy about those words. Our young people have embedded in them all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the understanding that they need. We as adults must hold space and be present as that beautiful potential unfolds. Not get in their way, not stifle them. Yes. Some of you might know that my very first work in Unity was as a youth and family director. Oh, how I loved being with the children. And after 3 years of being with the children, I was invited to be the spiritual leader of the church. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I left the children's ministry and moved into the adult church, I had some really big adjustments to make. It was a challenge to give up being with the wisdom and knowledge that the kids carried within them and shared so authentically and so enthusiastically. It was really difficult to not be present to those foot washings that we shared on Sundays near Maundy, Thursday. It was really difficult not to be with them for the burning bowl and the pureness that they brought to these experiences. I missed that. I treasured teaching the living curriculum that Unity offers our young ones. So Jesus said, what I'm about to tell you is true. You need to change and become like little children. If you do not, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18. It's when we let down our defenses and put aside all those protections that we have so meticulously created for ourselves in our life. When we put them aside, we allow the divine to show up and through us with honesty, just like the children. When we set aside that need to be a certain kind of way because society says we should or we're supposed to, those standards of the world, when we remove the masks that we wear, then we can be our true selves. We can keep that divine spark lit and shining, just like our young ones do. And if you wonder about that, sit with Liam for 10 minutes. Talk to Jackson. Talk to Sawyer and Jocelyn. Talk to them for a few minutes, and you get their vulnerability, their honesty, and their purity. Last week, I had a very distinct honor of attending the Uniteen Retreat along with Kathy and Brad, who chaperoned the boys. So let me say right off that it was an absolutely amazing experience. Amazing. Without question. You know that I attend silent retreats a couple of times a year. Well, this was anything but silent. It was noisy. So imagine 22 females, 22, I counted them twice just to be sure, in one cabin. Squeaky bunk beds, 2 restrooms, 4 showers, and 1 mirror. Thankfully, the mirror was big enough over a couple of sinks. Teenage girls take a lot of time in the morning. And I assure you that the sacred safety of our teens was first and foremost in the minds of every single adult there, always. The rules of sacred safety were shared throughout. Every few minutes people were counting kids. So imagine a retreat center filled with hundreds of people of varying ages in 2 dining halls. It was anything but quiet. There are 11 heart agreements that everyone who participated in the retreat is required to read and sign and commit to follow. I'm not going to share all 11 of them, but there's a couple that I want to point out because they're poignant. One is, I agree to represent my highest self. I agree to represent my highest self and to respect others. Imagine if we as adults, in every day, in every encounter, had agreed to represent our highest self. What might our day look like? Heck, what would our world look like? My goodness. If we agree to represent our highest self, allow that human self, that ego self to be set aside and remember and be our highest self. Another one is, through my words and actions, I am creating a loving, sacred, harassment-free atmosphere. Through my words and actions, there's the unity principle. I am creating a loving, sacred space. What if we all adhered to that and lived that every day in all of our interactions and encounters, that we showed up to create a safe and sacred space, first for ourselves, so that we can then do that for others and create a safe space for others to lay down their burdens, to allow their healing to happen, to trust the world. And the next one is, I agree to look for the highest good in all people and all situations. Woo-wee. Did you look for the good in every situation and experience this past week? Did you really? Oh, I see heads shaking. No. I love the honesty. And let me say that is a young person shaking their head no. So adults, can you be that honest and vulnerable? Did you really look for the good in every news bite that you heard? Oh, every traffic encounter that you had, every coworker that you encountered, did you look for the good in all of that? Imagine And these are the things that our teens are agreeing to. So after we gathered and did an icebreaker, and it was a lot of fun, we were sorted into family groups. And these family groups we stayed in through the weekend, and they were just fabulous. The groups were named Loving, Amazing, Understanding, and Kind. And there were obviously 4 of them. Morning, midday, and evening, the family groups gathered for a deeper understanding of who we are. And the very first night the Unity family grew, I was in the group called Kind, and we made our own heart agreements that we as a smaller group would live by. And they were like don't interrupt and the usual things. One of them was, say what's on your mind, don't doubt yourself. Say what's on your mind. Do you say what's on your mind? Do you say what truth is on your mind? When there's something going on and somebody's being disparaged or belittled, do you say what's on your mind? Do you sit quietly? Do you walk away, or do you set it right? Another one is left answers only, because there are no right answers. There is only your answer and my answer. Left answers only. And then another one was be yourself. Be yourself. How often do we show up truly, authentically as us? We kind of fit the box, depending on the situation or the social environment or the work environment. We kind of play a role that we think other people want of us. Right? Is it just me? What if we were truly, honestly ourselves every day? So the theme of the weekend was understanding who I am. And we began with the idea of what God is and what that meant. And the teens shared, God is mysterious. I love that. God is spiritual because God is my spirit. Now this is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So God is spiritual because God is my spirit. I loved hearing that. And God is light. When we talked about how we fit with friends and family in our godness, someone shared that when their friend and they were friendly to another person who was new at school, she could see her aura change. She could see the person's demeanor change because someone was friendly to them. Another person said that God helps me when I help my friends. It sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? But how often do we hold back? Maybe thinking that there's not enough to go around. There's not enough of money or food or love or compassion or kindness or this or that, whatever it may be that a person is calling out for. We might hold back. All we can remember is God helps me when I help my friends. And a very, very quiet teen said, I don't have to worry about things. I can meditate. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I don't have to worry. Did anybody worry about anything this morning? Yesterday? Sometime throughout the week? What if we set aside the worry and went into meditation instead, connected with truth? They talked a little more about words and how we use them, and one lovely teenager said, when I blurt out words, it shows that I'm not paying attention. Anybody a blurter? Words just tumble out sometimes. It says we're not paying attention. I thought that was brilliant. And one teen said that we can be breezy with life. Imagine that, being breezy with life. Feel a gentle breeze carry you through life. Completing that I am that we often do, the teens shared. I am good, smart, strong, brave, lovable, amazing, and grateful. There was a consensus among the teens that they weren't just one thing, that there was no one word that clearly described or defined them. Imagine if we as adults allowed ourselves the privilege to be everything and not just one thing. They all agreed that affirming their I am, affirming that I am of themselves felt beautiful. It felt good, and it felt powerful. So is there a word that you use to describe yourself with I am in a positive light? Think of it. You have one? Raise your hand when you have a word that you'd use to describe yourself as I am. You have a word? I am loving, I am kind, I am good, I am present. Okay, so say it. I am. Say it out loud. I am kind. Yes. And doesn't it feel good to say that? Doesn't it feel powerful to complete that I am? Now, I noticed some hesitation. So I'm going to give you some homework to do. When you get home today, make a list of I ams for yourself. Not I'm heavy, not I'm too thin, not I'm the good things that people see in you. I am loving, I am kind, I am generous, I am gracious, I am beloved. Make a list of those so that you can repeat them over and over again and feel good, feel beautiful, and feel powerful like our kids. So Saturday, the teens had several hours of experience, training, and they called it team building. It was a low ropes course. Anyone done a ropes course? Yeah, so it's exercises that you do as a group. So all the young ones were broken up into smaller groups. You know that the ropes course requires teamwork, a lot of communication, a lot of listening, now a lot of understanding, and a lot of following. If you've ever done ropes, the kids said that the things that they learned were that they didn't have to do everything by themselves, and they didn't have to get overwhelmed, that everyone could work together. I think that would be a successful training, huh? It was amazing to observe how the groups communicated with their words on walking around an elevated square planks and putting themselves into order by their birth date once the mute fly bit. See, the mute fly said that you couldn't speak, so they had to organize themselves by their date of birth without talking. It was wonderful to watch how they did it. They did it pretty quickly. I was surprised. Remember that these are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Now, the ropes course got to be more interesting to me when the group that I was in was then broken into 3 smaller groups. And there were some instructions given, and it was around the theme of islands. And there were the crates, the empty pallets, blank pallets, and they were put into a circle. And there was a pallet in the middle. They represented islands. And on the furthest island, it was an island of indigenous people that folks hadn't been able to get to in a long time. So the task of these 3 groups of teens was to get to the island of indigenous people. And of course, the islands were far away, so you couldn't just hop from one to another. They were given planks that served as drawbridges that they could lay between the islands. Now, there were a bunch of little rules that were given that caused all three of the teams to start over. Everybody had to start over if any of those little rules were broken, and they started over many times. So frustration could grow, but it didn't. They would laugh and groan and go back to start. So there were 3 groups, each on their own island. 2 groups went right, and 1 group went left. But the problem was when they got to the second island, the planks, the drawbridges, were not long enough to get to the 3rd island. So back to the beginning they all came. They tried various ways to extend their planks, and they stood scratching their heads for a while, and the facilitator brought them all together and told them the story of Jesus and the story of the cross and resurrection in the light of Jesus making himself a sacrifice. And in Unity, we see that as a sacrifice that teaches us how to overcome our humanness and to rise to our divine nature, our Christ nature. So the facilitator was telling the story, and you could see the kids taking that idea to heart. They were really listening and taking that idea to heart. So they captured the idea that Jesus had become the sacrifice to teach us. So the team to the left began a conversation of who could be their sacrifice. Fortunately, that didn't go very far. But then I heard the team in the middle, the entire team, all huddled together, and one of the young ones leaned over to the team on the left and invited them as a whole team to be the sacrifice. They would sacrifice the whole team. Thankfully, that didn't go very far either before someone realized by laying a drawbridge between the 2 islands and extending a plank drawbridge to the middle island, then carrying it to the 3rd island, they could reach the island of the indigenous. And across the way, I could hear somebody say, "We can all win. Everybody can get to the island of indigenous." It was so heartwarming to hear that revelation that everybody could win. No one had to be left behind. No one had to be sacrificed. Everyone could win. No one would be left out. This is where the conversation among the kids became very interesting and very deep. One person who kind of took the leadership role encouraged others to go ahead, you can make it across the plank. You can make it. And they led one another. And in moments, there were all the teens gathered on the island of the indigenous. It was fabulous to see. It was a success, I would say. And that ropes course went until lunchtime, and it was amazing to hear them reflect on what they had learned from doing this ropes course about themselves, places and spaces where they could grow, and they shared that with the adults, that they had room to grow and learn how to be a leader and learn how to listen and learn how to communicate and learn how to follow. And then in the evening, the final evening there, we closed the evening with an angel shower. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced an angel shower, but it's a beautiful experience. And the group was broken into two, and one by one group went through the line of the other group, and everyone whispered into the ears of those who passed by an affirmation of their goodness, an affirmation of what they have observed in them over the weekend. And it was beautiful. And tears came when I stood and witnessed a teen whispering an affirmation into the ear of their father, followed by a second teen who whispered their affirmation into the ear of their father. It's such an uplifting and honoring experience. Throughout this entire weekend, there was love shared. There was companionship experienced. There were new friends made, existing friendships strengthened, and faith was grown. The I am was affirmed, and God was honored through it all. The final act of the retreat was the fuzzies, but I can't tell you about that. You have to go to a retreat on your own to experience the fuzzies. Being with the teens for the weekend gave me hope for our future, because they understood that they are good, that they are powerful, that they are loved. That's what our teens got to experience. So everything that was done the weekend was done with love. So let's remember and speak it for ourselves. Let all you do be done with love. Namaste.